What's your name?
Gary Doran.
All right. Gary, where are you from?
I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. Raised in California.
L.A.? Were you in
Yeah,
L.A. when you were a kid?
Yeah, grew up in L.A. before there were freeways.
Before there were freeways?
Yes.
What was L.A. like when you were a kid?
It was totally different. It was small. It was nice neighborhoods. There was no freeways. You could drive.
Yeah.
You drove all over the place. And
Yeah.
then I helped build the freeways as a kid growing up.
you were a pioneer.
Yeah. I used to go ride my bike down there with all my buddies. We'd get on the tractors on the weekends when they were all gone and pretend like we were doing it all.
That's awesome. And how old were you when you left California?
I left to go to college back east. I went to college at Michigan, so I left.
So you were literally in L.A. from childhood through high school until you went to college?
Right.
All right, go ahead. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no, that's fine. I went to back east, married my high school sweetheart, went back east to college at Michigan, and then came back via Colorado, a short stint in Colorado, back to California after I graduated.
Okay.
And then decided, after having two of the children, decided that, California was just getting crazy and LA was getting crazy, and wanted to try to get back to some place a little more decent in the Midwest area.
All right, it was already getting crazy by what year? What
This was
time?
70s. This was in the 70s, early 70s. I went back in 73 to California, and in 76, I got a job offer in Texas and came to Texas.
Okay.
And loved Texas.
What city were you in?
Houston.
Okay.
And it reminded me of LA, like when I was a kid.
The good parts.
Yeah. When I was a kid, it was small. It was, reasonably easy to afford a house and stuff in Houston area in 76, and stuff like that. And so moved there, and that was my home for a number of years till about 91.
Okay. Long time.
Yeah.
What'd you do in 91?
Well, when I was in the oil business, and when the oil industry collapsed, I got a severance package, of course, and we moved to Wyoming.
All right.
And my second wife and I by then had the two children of ours, plus I had the three older children. But her family had a ranch in Wyoming, and they were getting real old and stuff, so we just thought we'd go back up and help them as much as we could. They sold the ranch, but we ended up helping them, and I got a job in Wyoming doing association work and stuff. So we lived there for 7 years, and then moved to Arizona. I got from the cold to the heat.
You keep bouncing. You're all over the country.
I know. And we were in Arizona for, quite a while, and then went to New Mexico, Albuquerque, and kept trying to inch our way back to Texas, because the three older kids were still in Texas.
Okay.
And they were all in college here and stuff, so we were trying to get closer to Texas as much as we could, but it never seemed to work out to get anything going in Texas, because it just didn't until I was ready to almost retire, and then I got an offer in Corpus Christi.
So you got an offer to Corpus Christi from Wyoming? Were you still in Wyoming?
No, actually, no. I was in Atlanta.
Okay.
And I had my youngest daughter with me. This is after my second wife and I were divorced. My youngest daughter came to live with me, and I moved to Atlanta to kind of get a fresh start and get things organized. And but we wanted to get back to Texas, and there was a job in Corpus Christi, and I got the job in Corpus Christi. So we got back to Texas in 2010.
So you're back to Texas. To Texas 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So almost 7 years ago now.
Yeah. So got back to Texas where we wanted to be, and I worked for about 3 more years and then retired.
All right.
So
out of Corpus Christi.
Yeah.
All right.
So
now the big question that I wanted to ask you today, and I'm so thankful for the background, because what I'd like to do, Gary, is I'd like to come over and based on some of the hops that you made,
Sure.
I'd like to hear some stories from each of those places, and talk about your kids and all the rest, because I'd love to hear the stories of their childhood and what you remember about their wonder years.
Oh yeah.
But I'd really like to hear how you came to what your faith story's like, because that's kind of like your biological story and your geological story.
It is. how I came to find Jesus, and it's kind of an interesting story because I was not raised really religious. My grandmother was Lutheran, Swedish, spoke Swedish, and we lived with her for a while. And when she would take us to church, it was always a hellfire brimstone. My mom was divorced, and you know how that went back in the 50s. That was not easy. And so a lot of church sermons were, you know, not proactive about divorced women, and so it made it hard for me as a kid seeing my mom being upset in church. So I just said, I'm not going to church. I'm through with church. I won't do this anymore. And until I was 30 years old, with 2 children of my own, I was diagnosed with a disease similar to Lou Gehrig's disease and given 2 years to live.
When you were 30 years old?
30 years old.
Wow.
And this interesting part of this is my first wife was Jewish. And that's, of course, she being Jewish and me being nothing, we just really didn't do religion. But she had a girlfriend who was Christian, and her girlfriend said, oh, I'd like you to meet my pastor sometime. I think you'd like him. And my wife invited him to come to our house one day. And the guy showed up, and it was probably 2 weeks before I got the diagnosis that I was really sick, because I was getting sick and stuff. And I think that's why she wanted him to come by and visit. And he sat down, we just started talking, and you know, he just, I don't know, got through to me, and it was like, okay, I've been a good guy, I've been a nice guy, I haven't hurt anybody, I've done all the normal things, but
all the things people say.
Then you're like, yeah, and all the answers you give, yeah, you've been good, I haven't hurt anybody, I've not done anything nasty, I've been a really nice guy and all that, and he said, yeah, but that's not going to help you if you want to get into heaven and stuff, and I was like, oh, never even thought about any of that, you know. So I got the diagnosis, and then I was pretty sick for probably about 6 months. I mean, I couldn't do much of it. I mean, I couldn't do much. Couldn't mow the lawn. Couldn't wrestle with the kids and boys and stuff. And pretty much just had to rest. And I was still working, trying to work and do this stuff. And that pastor took me. We started going to his church, and then he invited me to go with him for a weekend away, and to a ranch up in East Texas that some friends of his had. And we went for the weekend, and we just talked a lot, prayed a lot, and you know, I learned a lot from that, and I accepted Jesus and said, you know, I'm his, and whatever his will is fine, I take care of me. And he prayed over me for healing, and a couple weeks later, I went in for a checkup, and the doctor said, something strange happening here. It's not progressing, it's regressing. And a few months later, I went back in, and they said, you're healed. There's nothing wrong with you. And I was like, oh, holy man, this is something else. And God really did take care of me. And that convinced me at that point that, you know, I was really, you know, son of God's, and that he cared. And so I pretty much, from then on, I've been, you know, pretty active in my church. A few times I kind of fell away for some minor reasons, and primarily the divorces and stuff that made it hard. But I always ended up coming back to church and getting involved and trying to stay involved. I never gave up on Jesus. I've always prayed, even when I wasn't going to church, I was praying every day, and try to do devotionals every day as much as I can and stuff. It's just, you know, God healed me from that, and you know, it's a miracle he did it, and you know, I have that to really thank him for. At this point, that's what I'm looking for again. And so,
yeah, and you say you're looking for it again because we started from your faith story,
yeah,
and kind of moved forward. What are you looking for now? What's going on now? What's going on?
Well, I have stage 4 esophageal cancer, incurable, and it's metastasized into my lymph nodes on the left side of my body, all through my stomach area and up into my ribs and my back. And the doctors have said I have 6 months to live if I don't do chemotherapy or radiation. If I do those, I might live 2 to 4 years. But it'll be pretty hard times and a lot of illness and sickness. So I've decided, I'm going to just count on the Lord to take care of me and heal me, and homeopathically try to take the things that I need to fight this and get this cancer out of my body. All my faith is in the Lord. It's, His will be done, and He'll either heal me here or heal me later by taking me away. But I'm at peace with whatever He does because I love the Lord and I want to do the best.
I mean, I've thought a lot about you, Gary, and one of the things that I really, the question that rises to the top for me is there anything, and this might seem strange, but it maybe not, hopefully not. Is there anything in your life that seems scarier to you than dying of cancer? Is there anything that you would leave behind that would be worse than just what do you want more than you want to be? Is there anything you want more than you want to be healed? I guess that's the question.
I guess the thing I'd like is for all my children to love Jesus.
That's what I thought you'd say. I'm a father too.
It breaks me up because some of them don't.
Yeah.
But I do want all my children to have the faith I have, to know the answer to everything is with Jesus. I've been bankrupt twice, and I've made it through. I've had to go for the food bank to get food at times in my life. Mm-hmm. I grew up very poor. I had high-paying jobs, vice president in an oil company and stuff like that, and vice president in banks, CEO of companies. And I've lost a lot of it, and some of it I didn't lose, but it's the material things I realized years ago, they don't mean anything.
Don't.
The big fancy house, the fancy cars, none of that matters. None of that matters at all. It doesn't make any happiness. And, I've tried to get that across to my children that those things aren't that important.
So it would I guess it goes without saying that if that's something you would want more than you would want to be healed from cancer, is that your kids would know Jesus.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was your answer. I had a feeling that was going to be your answer. I'm a father and I feel the same way.
Yeah.
What you're saying is powerful. And what have you said? What would you like to say? What do you think? What's maybe the most concise way you could say, this is what I have, this is what I'd like for my kids to have? What is it?
I have total inner peace. I have total faith in Jesus. I have total faith in the afterlife that He's going to give me. And I just, I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of leaving. I would like to see my grandchildren grow up. I'd like to be at their weddings and things like that. But if that's not the case, I'll see them later anyway. I'll see them again another time. And, my mother died young, my sister died young. I'll get to see them. And that's a blessing.
Well, if your family members may already know, maybe you've already told them, but for the benefit of us on the camera, what is it that they would need to do? Those of your family members who maybe haven't accepted or believed in Jesus yet, and what is your prayer for them?
Oh, my prayer for them is that they would open their hearts to Jesus, that they would learn from my experiences. And I think some of them have, and some of them are kind of on the borderline. I have one child that's not even close, and he just denies everything. And I'm hoping that this will show him that it does work and it does matter, and that there is a God, and He does do wonderful things for us. And I think that would help him a lot, So
What's in your life? We've talked about your childhood. We've talked about your faith story. What's the one gift that God's given you? You mentioned peace. Would you say that that's the greatest, or is there something else that's the greatest thing that He's given you in your life?
oh, probably, peace, the understanding that He's there for me, the understanding that I'll never suffer really, that He'll always be there. No matter how bad things got in my life, God always seemed to pull us through.
Yeah.
We always, we had no money one Christmas, and amazing thing, the church we went to, they came over with a bunch of money for us to get kids presents and stuff. And
Church family.
It's you can't ask for any more.
Yeah.
You really can't.
God's good. Guys, and then I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Is there a verse that you kind of that you cling to, or you really think about a lot in this time that you're going through the struggle of the cancer you're fighting? And
There's so many, but probably the one that I like the most is, and I have to read it because I can never remember it. It's
Go ahead and sit back
Jeremiah
down.
29:11. And you probably know this one too, because for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And that's been my motto for a long time. That's why I have this sitting right there in front of me, so that I can constantly remember it and constantly follow it, because I know the Lord has plans for me one way or the other, whether they're here or with Him. There are plans.
It's interesting, that verse. I think a lot of times, I used to be a youth minister, and I used to read that verse to kids and tell them, God's got a purpose and a plan. And you think about young people, you're trying to motivate and inspire them, because Jeremiah was chosen from the womb. Before, it says, before you were born, I knew you.
Yeah.
And that's true of all of us, really. But as a prophet, he was chosen. And a lot of times we think about that in terms of our younger life. And you were telling me earlier that you're 69 years old, and this is the verse you're clinging to.
Right.
Isn't it awesome that we still have this childlike faith, and not only just childlike faith, but also a childlike connection.
Oh yeah.
And desire the same thing.
Yeah.
We still want to be.
The only father I really know is Jesus and God. The only father I ever know. I don't know my real father. He left when I was 8 years old, and I've never seen him since.
But you don't ever grow out of that desire to have your father want good things and
Right.
have plans for you, and plans to prosper you and give you hope in a future. Right. Some people want to do that on their own. It sounds like maybe in your before
there was times when I tried to do everything on my own, and I was angry. I was miserable. It destroyed my first marriage because I was trying so hard to be successful and have things and be able to get things and buy things, thinking all that was the answer. I always thought the answer was money and to be able to get all this stuff. And then when I got sick and realized afterwards that isn't the answer, is when I really woke up to the true answer is Jesus. And Jesus answers everything, and Jesus helps with us if we ask for it. He's there for us. Now, His timing isn't always the same as ours, but you have to be patient and let Him tell you when it's your time. And He will tell you. He will take care of you. He will do it. And you may struggle, but all that, you learn from all those experiences. You learn tremendous from those experiences. Hopefully, you hand those down to your children so that they understand and they learn. Right. And, I think that's the key. Especially right now for me, the key is this experience is really, I think, helping with my children a lot, because they see my faith. They see how strong I am. They see if I have to crawl to church, I'll be in church Sunday.
Do you think they'll be surprised if they see this video raw, unedited, just straightforward, everything we've talked about, just sitting with me and you having a conversation? Do you think they would? You think any of them would be surprised by it?
No, because they know how I am. They know how I am because I bug them all the time. Go to church with me. Go to church here. I don't care where you go to church. You don't have to go with me. Go to church. Yeah. You need to get into a family and a church family, and that's where you're going to meet the people that you really need to be with. Because those are the people who will really care for you and help you when you need it. And it's not going to help you at work. They're not going to help you. You know, you'll have friends that, when something like this happens, they run. They don't want anything to do with it. They want to be near you. They don't want to see sick people. They don't want to do that. But most Christians, it's not the way they are. They are there to help, and they're there to be there and encourage you. And that's what I need, and that's what I think all my children need,
Right.
and my grandchildren too.
Well, you've covered a lot of the bases and a lot of stuff that I wanted to cover today. I wanted to tell you, based on the last thing you said about the church and the church family. I consider you a brother, and you're old enough to be my dad, but just barely. You'd have been a young dad, and I may even be as old as some of your kids. I don't know. You may have started.
44 is my oldest.
There you go. I'm 44.
Yeah.
So I nailed it. But I consider you more of a brother, and a big brother, and a wise brother. One of the things you said really hits home with me, and I want to just say this while we're still filming. The church has always been an extension of my family.
Yeah.
And I've told my wife and my children, as we've grown up, we've always been in a city separate from our biological families. We've never lived in the same city as our families,
Right.
Since we've had kids. And I tell them all the time, you know, your aunts and uncles are here.
Yeah.
Your brothers and sisters are here, because these are the people. And really, and they're... The church is not immune to having the same kind of problems that you talked about, like you have your friends that run.
Oh, yeah,
sometimes people just don't know how to help. They don't know what to do.
I know, and I'm generalizing that somewhat, but
Yeah, but I mean, it's
but
true.
There are people who are a part of it that do take an interest and will fight and will help and stuff like that. So more so than a lot of other places. So.
Well, and I think, Gary, one of the things that inspires me, and then I'll ask you the question, but one of the things that inspires me is not only the verse that you picked, which was awesome, about God's plans for you and your future, because He has a future for you, certainly, and I think it's powerful, because I usually don't put it in context of a 69-year-old man.
Well,
but He does have plans, and He's not done with you yet.
No.
And He's not. And I know He's not done with you. And this is what I wanted to give you affirmation. You have inspired so many people in your fight. You've inspired so many people in your faith, because leading up to this, before you got diagnosed with cancer, before you even felt like you might have a heart problem again, you were healthy for a minute.
Yeah.
And you came to us relatively, without any, flaws that we knew were going on. But you were leading a men's study. You were helping. You were coming to being a part of our Wednesday night study. You have been an inspiration in that you've continued to try to be a part of the family that you have been adopted into by Jesus, and we're with you in that.
Yeah.
And none of us know how much time we have, but you've inspired so many. I would like to know what today is inspiring you. What's your inspiration? And when you wake up in the morning,
My inspiration is really just, talking to Jesus and, talking to Him about what's next for me and how He's going to take care of me. And, just praying and reading His Word. That's my morning. That's what I do first thing every morning. I just do that. I want to be with Jesus as much as I can. And so I spend, a good amount of time when I get up in the morning with Jesus and praying and reading His Word and trying to find, the answers to what He's going to do for me.
Bang.
And,